Well, this is the dream they
your
sell you.
family's private chef, designed to automate everyday cooking and make eating effortless for you.
This is the reality you buy. For $1,500, the Posha Cooking Robot promises to automate your dinner. But its biggest flaw isn't the robot. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the user. Now today we're going to do a UX case study on the Posha Cooking Robot, and we're going to break down what works and what doesn't. And I'll give you some specific activities on what could have caused these expensive mistakes. This isn't just a product review. This is a real world study in real world UX strategy applied to real world products that customers can buy today. The promise, the candy, is irresistible. Now you see, here's the pitch. You can get 70% of your evening back. The marketing shows a user relaxing on the couch while a pristine kitchen robot handles everything. But here's the vegetable. Automation alone does not equal good UX. Now, early reports from users and demos paint a very different picture to what has been advertised. Now, this disconnect between the marketed promise and the actual user experience is where trust begins to erode when it comes to the Posha Cooking Robot. And it all starts before the robot is even turned on. But what do we mean? Well, our first finding. The user journey starts long before the on button is even pressed. Now, before Posha cooks anything, you are basically the sous chef. Now, one of its signature recipes, chicken vindaloo, has the cooking time of 52 minutes. But user reports over 30 minutes of prep is needed just to get the ingredients ready. Now, the UX principle at play here is holistic journey mapping. A user's experience didn't just start with the robot, it started with the thought, I'm hungry, what's for dinner? Now, Posha automated only perhaps the middle part, ignoring the messy, labor-intensive beginning. Now, this is a classic UX mismatch for a product that has been marketed as a walk away and relax type of product. But what's the fix? Now, if I were leading the team, and of course I can because this is a UX case study, the first activity I'd fund is contextual inquiry. Now, it would go into 5 different users' homes or customers' homes, and we would silently observe them cook a full meal from beginning to end. Now, we wouldn't ask any questions. We would just watch, basically just observe them only. Now, the insights from seeing their real struggles with prep would have immediately shown us that the real problem to solve isn't the stirring, it was the entire process from fridge to fork. Finding number 2, the digital controls create cognitive friction. Now, all the control happens through the Posha app. But let's say your curry looks just a bit watery. You put perhaps too much of one ingredient in there. Now, adjusting gravy thickness or spice levels mean digging through complex settings, creating high cognitive load right away where you need simplicity. And remember what cognitive load is. The user can proceed, but it is much more taxing on them. But you see, there's more. Users also report lag and sync issues, which shatters the illusion of seamless control. Then you hit the paywall.
Bear in mind, you will have to sign up for a monthly Posha membership in order to access all of the features here, including updates, the full recipe list, and a good bit of customer support action as well.
What this does is it creates a psychological barrier. Now, the user just spent over £1,500 on hardware, but now they feel nickel and dimed for the software that makes it actually useful. What's the fix? Well, 2 key activities here. First one is a task flow analysis, and I do that on the top 5 mid-cook adjustments. Now, the goal would be to make those actions accessible in 1 or 2 taps. And then second, would run a subscription model testing exercise. Now, this is where I'd use something called the Van Westendorp analysis. Now, this would be to find a price and structure that basically feels fair for the customer. Now, maybe the subscription unlocks a premium service like integrated grocery delivery, making it feel like a valuable add-on and not basically a hostage situation. Now the benefit here basically is that whilst you've made it feel fair for the customer, they will want to spend more with you. So the immediate cash and grab actually wouldn't bring you as much return on investment as a exercise like this would, where you're giving more value to the user and they want to invest with you more, not just in the immediate short term, but the mid to long term, even though subscription models can be quite lucrative in the mid to long term anyway. So finding number 3, algorithmic conversionism sacrifices results for safety. That's a real mouthful, right? But once cooking, Posha stirs, tastes with sensors and tweaks temperatures. Now, but the algorithm though is overly cautious. So sauces are sometimes under reduced and it struggles to achieve a perfect high heat sear on a steak. Now, when a user tries to manually override the temperature, they're often met with safety alerts or warnings. Now, what's the UX fix here? Well, the UX principle I would look to apply here is user agency and control. Now, while automation obviously is the goal because it's a Posha Cooking Robot, users still need to feel that they have the ultimate authority. Now, a system should feel like a powerful tool that they can command, that helps them, that aids them, that basically speeds up the process, alleviating a load from them. Not a rigid black box that basically fights them. Now, when the robot's perfect result doesn't match the user's definition of perfect, well, frustration is guaranteed. What's the fix? Well, rigorous usability testing under realistic scenarios. Now, we would design test scripts where success is defined by the user's satisfaction with the food. Now, not just by the robot completing the recipe. You need to make sure that what's completed as a deliverable actually is good, and in this case, tastes good. So we'd ask the users, does this meet your expectations for a medium rare steak, for example? Now, why would we ask this question? Because this kind of qualitative feedback is gold for tuning algorithms to match human taste. But now for the part that kills the magic. Finding number 4. The experience of offboarding is an absolute disaster as reported by many users. Now, the marketing promises a 5-minute cleanup, but the reality is a sink full of regret. Or at least 8 complex components need washing. Users report hand washing takes an average of 11 minutes. To do it properly, that is. Now, this completely violates the peak end rule, and we talked about this in the previous video. Link will be in the description. But basically this states that users judge an experience based on its peak, basically its most intense point, and of course its end as well. Now, the end of the Posha experience isn't a delicious meal, it's actually a frustrating, lengthy cleanup. Now, that final negative memory retroactively sours the entire experience. Well, what's the fix? Well, this is a collaboration between UX and industrial design. In this case study, what I would do is that I would implement time motion studies. Yes, time motion studies. Now, this would be focused on disassembly and cleaning. Now, we would conduct a heuristic evaluation as well, specifically on post-use task, checking for friction points, checking basically for where the user comes up against more barriers, especially negative ones. But are there any emotional design lessons that we could take from this case study, from this product, the Posha Cooking Robot? Well, yes, because it brings us to a bigger, more philosophical point. See, cooking isn't just about transforming ingredients into fuel. Now, for many, it's a process. For some, it's a rhythmic act of chopping, the smell of garlic hitting a hot pan. Now, these can be therapeutic, creative, and social. Now, Posha removes that hands-on experience and turns the user into basically a supervisor. Now, they still do the prep and the cleanup, but they miss out on the satisfying part in the middle. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried to cook a steak and do it the Gordon Ramsay way, for example, where you're basically basting the steak, that's a beautiful experience. But of course, in this case, with the Posha Cooking Robot, that would remove that experience that you would have. So the UX lesson here is about emotional design. Now, we need to ask what emotional need our product is fulfilling. Or is it purely utility? Or is it creativity, relaxation, or connection? Posha is designed for efficiency, but accidentally removes the soul of the activity for many users. So what would be the fix in this scenario? Now, I would run an emotional mapping workshop. Now, this would be during the research phase. Now, we would map the user's emotional highs and lows during a traditional cooking experience. Now, we might discover that the goal isn't to just basically eliminate the process, but to enhance the process, maybe by automating the boring parts whilst leaving the creative or joyful parts to us, the humans. But it's not all bad, of course. For dishes that rely on precise temperatures and constant patient stirring, like soups, for example, or pastas, and slow braises. So reviewers do say that consistency when it comes to Posha Cooking Robot is phenomenal, and that's amazing. Now, the app's polite, non-intrusive notifications are also very well designed, and that allows for genuine downtime. And most importantly, for users with mobility issues, chronic pain, or vision challenges, this level of automation isn't just a convenience. This can be life-changing, especially when it comes to accessibility. So this could be a life-changing accessibility tool for some. So there are some clear benefits. It's not all bad. There are some good things about this product in terms of the problem it may solve for some segments of users. Now, this is where the product shines, of course, and highlights a massive opportunity for that brand. But the UX takeaway, well, is that even a flawed product can reveal powerful use cases. Great designers see these bright spots and understand how to pivot, perhaps by marketing the product not as a replacement for all cooking, but as the world's best machine for slow and low dishes, or as a revolutionary accessibility aid. So always look for the silver lining. So let's do the final maths. So $1,499, that's the price tag. Then you've got a yearly subscription, over 30 minutes of prep and 10 minutes of cleanup. A single meal can easily take an hour of your total effort. Now, for many, that's longer than just cooking if you were doing it for yourself, right? Now, the Posha Cooking Robot is a fascinating piece of technology, but it's a masterclass in UX pitfalls as well. See, it shows us that a product team can fall in love with the candy, the concept of what this does or what it could mean. Basically, they've fallen in love with their own solution without ever stopping to see if actually it's solving the user's real vegetable of a problem. Now, our key UX lessons include contextual inquiry, because that reveals hidden effort. Task flow analysis, because this prevents cognitive overload. Usability testing, because this ensures automation meets user expectations. And then, of course, emotional mapping. This can uncover experimental gaps, but there's more that we talked about as well. Subscription and feature testing. This would avoid the frustration that customers have when they come up against paywalls. Now, it is possible that Team Posha could have done all of these things. And if so, then I'd be questioning the validity of those activities and whether they paid attention to the data or if they did the testing correctly. Well, we'll never know. For experienced designers, these lessons apply beyond kitchen robots. Any complex product needs careful evaluation from prep to post-use. The final leadership takeaway is this: you don't just solve the problem you can solve. Go out and find the problem you should solve. Great UX isn't about applying technology. It's about deeply understanding the human at the other end of it. That is true experience design. So align your teams on that, and you'll build products that don't just get unboxed, but get used and loved for years. Now, if this UX breakdown helped you avoid wasting money or just gave you insight into some design pitfalls, then my job is done. And that is the point of our UX case studies. But I want your view though. Would you trust Posha in your kitchen? Or do you think it's all hype? Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into product design and UX strategy and case studies. But until the next video, stay present, stay curious. I'll see you next time.